All right, everyone. If you can hear me, give me a thumbs up or a yes or something in chat, please. I am just getting used to this streaming software, and this is only my second stream. So I'm going to need your help tonight and some patience for sure. I'm going to give people a few minutes to join in. I see we have split hair with lots of comments going on. All right, you can hear me good. Awesome. Hey, Glenn. Hey, Robert. Wanda Bell. That sounds familiar. Do you watch New York Prepper? Give people a few minutes to get in. And if you're not really sure what we're doing here today, a very interesting gentleman contacted me and said that he had modeled the entire UVU area around the courtyard, and he one-upped it significantly from there, which you probably won't see from anyone else until they see this video, and then they'll try and copy it. But he is also here with me. So he is in the chat. He is also in the live stream. So if you have questions for him, after we get done showing kind of what he's built and looking at different angles and things, you are more than welcome to ask him questions. So if you have questions, put them in the chat, and I'll have the producer kind of mark some that he can address after the fact. And I will warn you, he does have a thick accent. I believe he is from Holland. So that may make it a little interesting, but he speaks very good English. And let me see if he is. Are you there, Pete?
Hi, hello. Yeah, I'm here. Can anyone hear me?
Can you guys hear him? Can you do a thumbs up or a yes if you can hear Pete? Okay.
Nice to having me and spread some truth around.
All right, looks like a yes. So they can hear you, they can hear me. All right, so I think we will go ahead and get started. So
Yes.
what I wanted to kind of do was give him a chance to tell you how he kind of created this model. So Pete, if you want to give him the way you actually created it, not necessarily the analysis yet, and then we'll jump right into the model itself and some of your video.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a story. I started to model up. First, I started to look in a way to import a map from Google Earth into SketchUp. But I gave up after a day trying. And then I started to build my own model. You know, that took me like 3, 4, 5 days. And then I was not satisfied. It didn't give me the good look, you know. And then I Googled again, I searched, and then I came across a website that you can put data in, and then this website convert your data into a usable SketchUp file.
So now this is to scale as well, correct?
Yeah, this is from OpenStreetMap, so it's perfectly to scale.
All right, awesome. So let's go ahead and jump into your video, and then
Yes.
we will jump into the model itself.
Yes.
All right, give me just 1 second. Like I said, I'm learning this new software as we go along here. All right.
Jesus Christ.
Because whether or not he shot through this crack right here, which again is it looks very small on Google Maps right now, but it's actually like 1.5 to 2 feet wide. People who are there in person let me know that's actually much wider than it looks. And so if I'm a shooter.
Now this is Range Day Bro, and a lot of you have seen not only his ballistic dummy test he did recently, but he's been on many shows and he's been talking about this idea of shooting from this part of the building down into hit Charlie Kirk. And along with that and many other theories, we're going to kind of look into that from various angles. And I think this modeling puts that to rest. It kind of puts a bow on that, but let's keep going.
And I want to stay out of the sight of everybody. I might be up against this wall here with a tripod, or I might just be prone out on the top of this and shooting over the top. But either way, this matches the bullet trajectory that is most likely for the exit wound where we saw in the front of Charlie's neck.
Okay, so he's saying that you're shooting from there, anywhere up in this area, and it's going to have a exit wound come out of the front. So it's going to hit from the back and come out of the front, or even if theoretically it went from the side out through the front, that's kind of his stance. All right.
And he didn't respond at all.
I still believe that this is the most likely area of the shooter.
And the next day,
So quick backstory, and I'll let Q talk to this more, but he contacted Range Day Bro and was telling him his thoughts on it and showed him this, was trying to get him to see these models and things, and he never heard anything back. And then, of course, Range Day Bro was on Sean Atwood, which is over 1 million subscriber channel.
One particular location, which I point out on my channel, which is directly to his back right. There's a little, probably a foot wide crack between the buildings, between the balcony and the balcony that I originally had alleged the shooter might have been on. Again, I was just spitballing there in that video. I should have used more clear terms. But that is the spot I think would be most advantageous because you're shooting through a crack.
So he's going around saying that he can shoot through a crack on top of this building and hit Charlie Kirk. And I can't wait to show you this model. Now this, of course, is this model perfectly perfect? I couldn't tell you, but it's to scale from Google Earth. It's all their measurements. And then everything else you see is also to scale. All right, so let's go to, actually, we won't do sound analysis yet. We'll do that here in a moment. All right, and then next, this kind of shows, where are we at here? Here. So this kind of shows how he came up with the scaling. He actually added the tent and many other things to this. So check this out.
I used Google Earth to get the dimensions of the tent. So I know from here to here is like 15 meter. And then I put this picture to.
So for people that are going to say, oh, this isn't even to scale, the tent's not right, nothing's right. He actually went in here and did measurements and got it as close as you're going to get, right? So he actually modeled the tent, and as you'll see, he modeled a lot more.
Scale. Let me see here. That's about 15 meter. And then we can also measure the tent, of course. So
Okay,
it's like 4 meters wide.
Yep, so he measured the tent, and he gets all that put in place. He also puts shooters in place, which is, I thought was a very nice touch. And then from various different positions. And then we're going to see some audio analysis, but what he did is he took some video, and he has a video, and I'm going to link it in the description when we're done, so you can go check it out. I highly recommend you go watch it. But he does some analysis where from the original FBI shooting location, there were people that had their phones and they were recording. So he found that video, and based on other videos, he found where that person was located. And that's how these people are standing here. This gentleman in the black shirt, I believe, is the one that was filming. So when he does his audio analysis, it's based on the location of this guy. So it's probably a lot more accurate than some of the other stuff that's out there. All right, so now we're actually going to look at the model itself. And I think this is going to be the most interesting part for most people. Let me share this out. All right, give me 1 second. There we go. Sorry, like I said, I'm learning the software here. All right. So this is where it gets interesting. Now, this is the UVU campus. Obviously not all of it, but it's the important part. So as we come in here, and everyone, if you can, let me know if you can see the model and everything. I want to make sure I'm on the actual right part of the stage here in the chat to say I can see the model or something similar. Correct, this is not a Blender file. I'm guessing you can see it since Jordan mentioned that. All right, so if you come in here, you can see he has modeled the tent. He has modeled Charlie in there. Charlie is sitting up on the elevated platform. We have his security guard. Obviously, this is just a human being. This is just a render. This isn't the actual guy. And then Charlie's kind of in his location. Even details like the microphone is there. I mean, it's very complete. And then this is the guy over here in the black who's recording. And then if I kind of zoom out from here and get in here, give me a second. Here we go. I'm still learning the controls on this software too. But if you zoom out, you can see there's shooters in multiple locations. So this first location, we'll cover this one first. This is the official FBI narrative location. So he's laying here. Doesn't really matter which of these peaks that he was on, or even necessarily which part of this building. He has line of sight, and you can see that. So if you go here and you follow it down, you can see he has clear line of sight of Charlie out there. And Q actually modeled the gun trajectory as well. Obviously, they don't move in a perfect straight line, but you get the general idea that it would hit him. And he brought it all the way in to his throat right there. So in theory, if that was the actual shot and everyone believed all of that stuff, then yes, he does have line of sight. So now let's go to, I believe it was Peak Prosperity. Chris, Dr. Chris, he was talking about this location, a possible secondary location. It was not Tyler Robinson, and that would be somewhat over here. All right, so now we're looking at this line of sight. Move this up a little bit. Now you can see that if a location, similar to this, they have a clear line of sight. So this could have been a possible another shot. And you see with that straight line, it lands basically in the same spot. So there's different vantage points from back there that could certainly be plausible as far as the shot. Now, obviously, everyone still questions the 30-06 narrative and all of that stuff. But anything mostly back here on these buildings and then up where they say Tyler Robinson was is a pretty good line of sight. But now I really want to cover this because this is what I was kind of questioning before from Range Day Bro. He was saying that the shot came from the rear right. And I want to make sure we cover this because it's pretty important. I was questioning if you could actually see inside the tent. Now, could you shoot through the tent? Sure. Would you want to risk possibly missing that shot and just firing the gun and missing, and everyone goes insane and you don't accomplish your mission? I don't think that would be a good look. So this would be the vantage point of someone. You can pretty clearly see it's going into the tent, right? So that's what I was saying before, is they would have to shoot through the tent and hope that they can actually hit Charlie underneath. Now, if they fired from there, theoretically, it would hit the back of his neck. But you can see if it hit here behind his ear, it's not going to come out of the front. And theoretically, I guess it could bounce inside, hit his vertebrae or something, but it's going to go through his head and go out the other side. So that one, and having to shoot through the tent, I think is probably fairly unlikely. And then the famous Range Day Bro location, which again, I apologize for the way I'm moving around this environment here, but all right. Now let's come over here. This is the famous, 6.5 million view video that went out. And looking at this, let's zoom in. Now this is to scale, right? So this human being here and the gun is to scale. So let's look at the official. This is what came out on the Sean Atwood. This is the last thing that he showed on his range test when he did the ballistic dummy. The shooter's anywhere here, anywhere on this location. He'd have to shoot through the building. So if I come over here, you can see that the red is the line of sight. So if that's going through and hitting Charlie, he would have to shoot through the building itself. So in other words, he'd have to shoot through the concrete and the steel and everything else to get over there. Let me get this reset. So I see from this side, you can see he'd have to shoot through the building there. And I'll come down to Charlie's vantage point if I can. Let's see. Yeah. So this one here, this going across, that would be where Range Day Bro, that building that he's on, that's where he's saying that shot came from, to hit him behind his head and came out of his throat. Clearly, that's not going to happen, assuming all of this stuff is to scale and properly modeled. And if that one did hit him, then, theoretically, if he had that space, then it would come out, somewhere on the side of his neck. And yes, in theory, it could hit his vertebrae and bounce off and come out of the front, maybe. But you have the problem of, can a 30-06 or I guess in this case, he's saying a 223 or 5.56, can that go through concrete of the building and steel and then hit Charlie? I think that's a pretty obvious no. The other question people had was, what if they were standing up here on this little, I don't know if this is a solar, maybe solar panels or something similar. So if you're at this vantage point on the solar panels, say here, you can't even see the tent. So that's definitely not going to be a shot. And if you come up here onto the top of this platform and look down, you can see the front of the tent, but you definitely can't see Charlie. There's no way you're shooting from there. So again, I think this is pretty eye-opening, assuming that this is, properly to scale, which it appears to be. And this is kind of where my video the other day, these were the people that were standing here and we're looking out over the courtyard that possibly could have seen him from the side. But even in that case, they had to hold their phone over the edge. If I come up here to where they're actually standing, if I'm standing here on this, let me rotate a little bit. If I'm standing here against the rail, you can see I still can't see Charlie. So, again, assuming this positioning and everything is correct, which it looks like a lot of work went into getting this right, that doesn't fit either. So, that raises more questions. But now, along with these questions, let's look at some of the audio analysis, and that makes this even more interesting. So, again, give me a second here. Still getting used to this this setup. All right. And share my screen. Okay. All right, here we go. So this is this is Q's audio analysis, and then a lot of you have actually seen Audio Freq. Audio Freaks. It's FREQ. He's been on a few different shows and done some things, and he did some pinpointing of stuff as well. And they kind of came to the same conclusion, or very close. So for anyone asking, it was SketchUp was the program and the model, I believe. But let's listen to what he had to say about the audio analysis. And let me make sure I'm sharing this. There we go. All right.
According to the story, we have a shooter on the roof and a target on, let's say, 128 meter, 419 feet. And the so-called shooter used a rifle, a Mauser, and the bullet had a missile velocity of 850 meters a second. That means the bullet hits the target in about 150 milliseconds. And it takes about 370 milliseconds for the sound to reach the target. And that means if you are in the area of the target, then you always should see the impact first. And then the sound come after it, not the other way around.
So he's saying the order of the sonic crack. So typically what happens is, trying to say this in like a non-graphic way. So if you get shot by a sniper, you get hit and maybe dead before you even hear the sound of the actual shot. And that's because the bullet travels faster than the speed of sound. So you get hit by the bullet first, and then the sound travels behind it. With what he's saying is the audio does not match that type of situation, especially from that distance.
Let's have a closer look. First we check if the video is in sync with the sound. I will play this video in slow motion.
Not counting gang violence. Not counting gang violence.
Now we play it in normal speed.
So some of you were asking about like which video he sourced and that kind of stuff. So this is the video where the guy's standing there in the front and he gives you distances and things, but he's just making sure that the audio is actually synced with the video, because in some videos it's not.
Not counting gang violence. Not counting gang violence. Not counting gang violence.
We can see the video is in sync with the sound. And now we are going to load it in the Vegas Pro, which have more precise measurements than my Filmora app. I loaded the video in a correct version of Vegas Shot. That would be around here.
So what he's doing is he's looking at the distance between when Charlie actually gets hit, or it appears he gets hit, and when you actually hear the sound.
And now we move forward until we see the first impact. It doesn't matter if we see the impact 125 milliseconds or 170 milliseconds later. The fact is that we see the impact after we hear the shot. And that is impossible unless you have a weapon with slower muzzle velocity.
So he's saying that based on what he's seen from the audio analysis, it looks like the shot is hitting him in the wrong order, which means it could be a closer shot, or like he's saying, it could be a lower velocity type of weapon.
Compared to the speed of sound, this is what happened in the real world. We have the sniper, this red dot is the target, and the red dot on the right with the speaker is when the sound hit the target. So the bullet hit the target at 150 milliseconds, and then the sound hit the target after about 370 milliseconds. But what we measured was this. And it is off by like 300 milliseconds, or almost a third of a second. In real world physics, that is impossible. Unless the gun or rifle produced a muzzle speed just over 200 meters per second, while the speed of sound is like 340 meters a second.
So yes, so look what, so Meta Knight 62 says, could it mean the shot was fired close to the camera? That's basically what it would have to mean in this case. So I know there was another guy, Audio Freq, who he went out and did some pretty advanced audio analysis from multiple different cameras and things. And he kind of came to the conclusion, a very similar conclusion, that he thought it was much closer up. And that's actually this here.
I am seeing a problem, but it's not so cut and dry because obviously, as I said, it's geometrically aligned. It's not linear. So, you know, there definitely is a supersonic event happening. You know, this is, it's going through every frequency. You can't fake that, you know, and ultimately the crack is happening as well. So if I turn on...
Well, let me ask a better question. Are you able to determine anything from what you've found here about how far away from this particular recording?
So Jason asked a good question here. He has all this analysis, but he's asking him, have you actually figured anything out about the distances from all the, you know, extensive videos? He's done several videos. Go check him out too. Check out Jason on Crowdsource the Truth, and check out Matthew on Audio Freq. But he kind of gives an answer here, and it's very similar to what we came up with. It was a closer shot.
The shooter would have been.
I'd put him within 50 meters. I would have thought maybe.
So within 50 meters, based on his audio analysis of multiple different cameras and sources. And then Q, or Peet, as I call him, who did this modeling and stuff, he thinks the same, you know, it's a closer shot. So as far as the information that I've shown, that's kind of what I have. Obviously, we have this model here. I did reach out to other YouTube channels, including Valhalla and Paramount Tactical and all those guys, and invited them to the live stream. But I think they might have been too short a notice. I just asked them this morning. So I'll see if I can get them on at some point. Probably not today. but I'll see if I can get them on and kind of go over some of these different locations and ideas. But I mean, this is pretty thorough. So I asked the community for a 3D model, and I got a 3D model with a tent with Charlie Kirk inside on a raised platform on a chair, leaning back with a microphone in his hand, with a security guard next to him, with the people on the front, people on the roof, and exact lines of sights from the guns. I mean, that's spectacular.